One mission race, we can help not only the promotion of sustainable livelihood in local communities, but as well as the department's overall employment recovery efforts.
All right, a pleasant morning to everyone. We welcome you to the first installment of the fifth National Career Advocacy Congress with the theme Transitions, Trends, and Prospects Towards a Fire-Responsive and COVID-Proof Labor Market. I'm Jessica Garcia, your host for today's webinar. Let us formally begin today's program with a prayer to be followed by the singing of the national anthem.
God of all, thank you for each mind and heart that fills the presence of this gathering. We come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help for the task we set out to accomplish today. We pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you clearly show us how to conduct our work with the spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Help us work together and encourage each other to excellence. O God, our healer, show your compassion for the whole human family that is in turmoil and burdened with illness and with fear. Come to our aid in this time of pandemic. Heal our world and our bodies. Strengthen our hearts and minds, and in the midst of turmoil, give us hope and peace. We ask this in the name of the Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Again, welcome to the first webinar of this year's NCAC. Now, this webinar is part of the three-part webinar series with an overall theme, Learn, Adapt, Thrive, Rising Above Employment Challenges and the Post-Pandemic Future. Now, we are thrilled to have strong participants here in Zoom and on Facebook Live of the official Facebook page of DOLE. Good morning to all. We hope you guys are safe, healthy, and hopeful. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. The National Career Advocacy Congress is a collaboration project under the Career Guidance Advocacy Program, or CGAP, of the national government agencies, which serves as a platform to engage key stakeholders on relevant issues in career and employment coaching and current labor and employment trends in line with the CGAP's role of addressing jobs and skills mismatch. Indeed, our unwavering spirit towards career guidance and employment coaching cannot be quenched by recent events, including the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the postponement of the fifth NCAC last year, we're here meeting virtually and are excited to learn, adapt, and thrive towards a proactive career guidance and employment coaching. Today, we'll hear from various resource speakers and panelists a discourse on human capital development in the age of the fourth or even the fifth industrial revolution and the transition into a post-COVID labor market, which puts forward a decent and gainful employment for all. We are joined by various stakeholders from the education and training sectors, career advocacy groups, and even our DOLE partners via Zoom and Facebook Live. Again, thank you for joining us today. Now, to formally kickstart, and not just this webinar, but the fifth NCAC in general, we would like to welcome Undersecretary Renato L. Ebarle of the Employment and General Administration Cluster for his welcome remarks.
To the members of the Career Guidance Advocacy Program Working Group, our gracious resource speakers and panelists, guidance counselors, career advocates, my fellow colleagues in the government, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant morning. I welcome all of you to the 5th National Career Advocacy Congress. On its 5th edition this year, the National Career Advocacy Congress is a biennial collaboration project which serves as a platform to engage key stakeholders on relevant issues in career guidance and employment coaching, and current labor and employment trends in line with the CGAP's role of addressing jobs and skills mismatch. In keeping with digital transformation and taking off from CGAP's tagline, follow the guide, tag a career, like the future, we are currently conducting the 5th NCAC in a full virtual setup and reaching more stakeholders as possible nationwide through our streaming platforms. We shall also feature 3 webinars and a culminating activity in lieu of our usual 2 or 3 day activity, which shall delve on the imperatives in transitioning into a post-COVID labor market that puts forward decent and gainful employment for all. Even in the midst of pandemic or other natural shocks or risks, we would like to emphasize the importance of career guidance towards the achievement of a healthy and resilient labor market. Career guidance, more than ever, can help people navigate their way to the new world of work. It is absolutely necessary that students be completely informed about current labor market trends and the characteristics of training and higher education to which they are headed. For the members of the Interagency Working Group on Career Guidance Advocacy, let us take note of what our speakers and panelists would share and also identify how this would form part of our updating of the Career Guidance Advocacy Plan for the next administration. It is through our continued efforts, dialogue, and partnerships with different stakeholders that we can attain CGAP's objectives. With that, I invite everyone to take active participation in all the lined-up activities, especially during the open fora, to bring about an active exchange and flow of ideas. May the learning shared through this Congress aid us towards adapting and thriving in whatever areas we are right now, be it in our schools, workplaces, or even life in general. Let us all work hand in hand towards a FIREsponsive and COVID True Labor Party. Maraming salamat at magandang araw sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Yusek Ibarle, for that inspiring message. May this Congress push us forward towards following the guide, tagging our intended careers, and liking the future. Now, from an inspiring message, let's keep ourselves excited as we will proceed to the plenary presentations. We are glad to have esteemed resource speakers who will discuss current employment trends, frameworks on human capital development, and also prospects on future-proofing the Filipino workforce. Allow me to introduce our first speaker. Ms. Girlie Grace Casimiro-Igtiben is presently the Director 4 of the National Economic and Development Authority Social Development Staff. She has solid experience and rigorous training in leading and managing people, policy formulation and analysis, development planning, program or project development, and evaluation and monitoring. She also leads the team providing technical advice on policies related to social inclusion, social protection, poverty, education, health, human settlements, labor welfare, and migration. Ms. Casimiro-Igtiben holds an MA degree in Development Studies from the International Institute of Social Studies, Erasmus University, and an undergraduate degree in Development Studies from the University of the Philippines, Manila. To provide us information on the current employment situation and the updated Philippine Development Plan 2017-2022 with focus on the Human Development Chapter, let us welcome Director Girlie Grace Casimiro-Igtiben.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Jessica, for that warm welcome. And good morning to you, Sec Ibarle, Asek, Nikki, and to everyone who's participating in this morning's NCAC. I am pleased to present to you the current employment situation and the highlights from the updated Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022, specifically on the human capital development. Prior to the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Philippines was positioned to likely become an upper middle income country in 2020, that is supposed to be last year, given its strong macroeconomic fundamentals. First, in the past years, we have strong economic growth performance. We have a low and stable inflation. We have a very strong fiscal position. In fact, the BBB infrastructure program doubled as a share of the gross domestic product, or GDP, compared to the past 5 decades. And we obtained the highest ever credit rating in the range of BBB plus to A minus. Lowest unemployment is at 5.3% and underemployment is around 14.8% in January 2020. And the lowest poverty incidence, we have achieved that at 16.7% as of 2018. Next slide, please. Despite tighter community restrictions in the third quarter, the Philippine economy continued to grow by 7.1% in the quarter 2021. From 12% in the second quarter of this year, and negative 11.6% in the third quarter of 2020. On a seasonally adjusted quarter-on-quarter basis, the economy actually increased by 3.8%. For the first 3 quarters of this year, the real gross domestic product, or our GDP growth, accelerated to 4.9%. Next, please. And then consistently, the labor market continued to show signs of improvement despite the pandemic and the lockdowns that we have been facing. As of September this year, employment level was recorded at 43.6 million, which is already higher than our pre-pandemic level, or last January 2020, by 1.1 million. However, total employment dropped by 642,000. Or 1.5% on a month-on-month in September. This is largely due to the impact of severe weather disturbances in our agriculture sector. Next slide. Unemployment rate slightly increased to 8.9% last September. This is the highest recorded unemployment rate this year. It was higher by 0.8 percentage points or 373,000 more unemployed individuals compared to our unemployment rates last August. This was expected, because as many parts of the country remain under stringent and blanket quarantines for most of the survey period. Meaning, ito po kasi yung mga time that we are having this ECQ, which is our most strictest lockdown. Meanwhile, national underemployment rate further improved to 14.2% in September from 14.7% in August. The second lowest, this is the second lowest underemployment rate recorded this year as more people find more productive work. Next, please. Compared to other countries, the Philippines' unemployment rate remains to be among the highest compared to the latest figures from our major Asian emerging economies. So you will see on the slide the comparison between China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Next, please. Nonetheless, we are still on track in achieving our key employment outcomes identified in our updated Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022 with a year-end target unemployment rate which is 8.1%, which is within our 7 to 9% target for the year. Likewise, our employment generated compared to our first to the third quarter 2020 is at 4.36 million. This is actually way above the 2.4 to 2.8 million target for 2021. Meanwhile, our youth unemployment rate for the month of October will be released this coming December, next month. So far, September data is slightly higher than the target at 17.7%. Similarly, our underemployment in areas outside NCR averaged 18.8% from January to July 2021, also slightly missing the target of 16 to 18%. However, of course, we are still very optimistic that these key employment outcomes will continue to improve as we further ease our quarantine restrictions, because currently, as you would know, that the NCR is already in alert level 2, and hopefully we will be able to move forward to alert level 1. Next, please. So now let me walk you through the updated Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022 overall strategic framework. Next, please. The Philippine Development Plan, or PDP, has been updated to align its strategies with the imperatives for economic recovery given the pandemic and the new and better normal within the overall goal of healthy and resilient Philippines. As what we observed, we have maintained the overall and the original structure of the strategic framework, but also tweak some strategies so that we will be able to include those that will build the resilience of the country. So for instance, under the Malasakit pillar, which aims to build a high-trust society, we included the strategies about fast-tracking the digital transformation of the government, especially its public-facing transactions. Under the Pagbabago pillar, economic and social opportunities will be ensured for all in order to transform our society and achieve equity and resiliency, particularly towards the digital economy. Hence, this will also include digital transformation of the agriculture, industry, and services sectors, as well as the increase in the provision of training on digital skills to the workforce. Because at this point, we need to really reskill our workforce towards the 4th Industrial Revolution skills. For the patuloy na pag-unlad, future growth will be accelerated through initiatives stimulating innovation and scaling up technology adoption, building on the different reforms that have been initiated in recent years. And then for enabling and supportive environment, having a sustainable framework, legal and regulatory is crucial to facilitate the improvement of development of this, what we call digital economy. And then lastly, for the foundations for sustainable development, we still retain the bedrock strategies to ensure the support to all these strategies. For instance, with respect to the Build program that we are currently implementing, it entails revisiting the different programs and projects to make sure that they really contribute towards having a healthy and resilient Philippines. 20 years until 2040. So meron na lang po tayong 20 years until 2040. It's a long time and many challenges may come at any time. and may place obstacles along the way. We note that COVID-19 may be just one of these. It is important to quickly recover lost ground, ensure sustainability of the gains by building our resilience, and then get back our track on towards achieving the ambition natin 2040. For the remaining planned period of the Duterte administration, that is until next year, we renewed our commitment to enable and empower every Filipino to enjoy each and every one of his or her aspirations towards a matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay. Next, please. So now let me go down to Chapter 10, which is on human capital development. Next, please. Actually, Chapter 10 now highlights the following outcomes. Number 1, nutrition and health outcomes for all improved. Secondly, the increasing the income earning ability and enhancing our adaptability. And third, having a flexible lifelong learning opportunities for all. Next, please. Updates were also made in the strategic framework following the revised outcome. The transform human capital development towards greater agility is the overall outcome of Chapter 10. So the overall assessment and challenges specific to labor and employment in view of the new normal was presented in this chapter. Labor market outcomes in the near term will hinge on active policy interventions and support measures to the vulnerable and hard-hit sectors during the pandemic. Reversing the impact of the pandemic in the labor market and ensuring responsiveness to the Industry 4.0 will really require the following strategies. Number 1, we need to further advance skills development, upskilling, and retooling through continuing education, training, and digital learning. So to emerge stronger from this pandemic and crisis and ensure the employability of our displaced workers and our future workforce, the government will really need to take an active role in upskilling and reskilling our workforce through comprehensive and coordinated action on skills development and training. Skills retooling programs, flexible and blended training arrangements should be expanded to build the skills critical to the current and emerging industry demand. So in particular, our TESDA online program will be expanded and modules and courses will be further developed to cater to the needs of the industry and beneficiaries, specifically of our youth, displaced workers, our returning OFWs, our informal sector workers, and other vulnerable groups. Second, we need to strengthen and expand the internship, apprenticeship, and dual training programs. The current internship, apprenticeship, and training programs of the government will be further enhanced to address the current challenges and further build on labor market prospects of young individuals. Our existing programs like our government internship program, our JobStart, and apprenticeship, learnership, and dual training programs will need to be expanded to respond to the current needs of the government. For instance, currently we need contact tracers, profilers, data analysts, and coders. So moreover, the development of online modules on life skills training, occupational safety and health, including mental health, which is very important at the moment, productivity, career guidance, and employment coaching will be pursued under these programs. Third, we need to boost and expand employment facilitation services to assist and facilitate employment of displaced workers, first-time job seekers, and those returning to the workforce. The government will need to further strengthen its employment facilitation system. So the capacity of our pesos in our local government units nationwide needs to be enhanced to ensure that our public employment programs will be responsive to the needs of our countrymen. So likewise, our Field Job Net, the government's web-based job search matching and referral portal along with PESO will be developed further through intensified promotion among our stakeholders to increase our visibility, widen our reach, ensure that we are improving our service delivery and it's inclusive, and improve our collection of data. Lastly, we need to ensure the flexible work arrangements which allow our members of the workforce to balance our household and work duties. As companies shift to flexible and remote work arrangements. That is, some have already now flexible schedule, compressed work week, alternative work site telecommuting. In view of these changes and the demands of the new normal, there's a need to ensure that we guarantee work-life balance, especially among our working mothers, to prevent them from opting out of the labor force. In addition to this, we need to address gender bias and gender role stereotype in basic education curriculum materials and promote entrepreneurship and advance economic opportunities for our women through the use of digital technology, which we will be actively implementing. Next slide, please. So we also, as I mentioned, we need to enhance our income support also and employment, emergency employment, so that we will be ensuring our labor mobility and income security. Next, please. So currently, we have the following legislation laid out under our Chapter 10 of the updated Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022, which will require support in terms of actions of the executive branch to increase income earning ability and enhance the adaptability of our workforce. Number one, we have there our amendment to the apprenticeship law, which is in line with the intensified effort to strengthen the implementation of youth apprenticeship in our country. And the amendment, therefore, to the apprenticeship law is being proposed. Second, our amendment to Productivity Incentives Act, or RA 6971, which will improve existing productivity and gain sharing schemes. Amendment to RA 6971, or the Productivity Incentive Act of 1990, will be pushed. The proposed amendment will focus on liberalizing restrictive provisions of the law to accelerate the adoption of productivity improvement programs at the workplace by making establishment of Productivity Incentives Committee mandatory in all private business enterprises. Third, given that the new normal is highly characterized with continued awareness for health and safety measure, flexible working arrangements, we would need to institutionalize this scheme. So in this regard, the current mandate on the 5-day work week would need to be amended, allowing more room for flexibility, which still accompanied by more specific guidelines on the implementation of alternative work arrangement for both the private and the public sector. Alongside this, the creation of a legal framework on part-time work that is recognizing another standard employment scheme to increase flexibility for employers while integrating workers' protection needs to also be established under this law. And then lastly, we have our amendments to the guidelines of benefits of employees' compensation program. The guidelines and benefits of the employees' compensation program needs also to be amended to include compensation for pandemic-related risks at work. So I think this is my last slide, and it ends my presentation. I wish everyone a very productive 5th National Career Advocacy Congress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Casimiro-Igtiben. Tulad mo, kasama mo kami patungo sa pag-abot ng ating ambisyon, ang isang matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay para sa lahat. As what we've heard from the first plenary presentation, the COVID-19 pandemic left a scarred economy with lingering effects still felt by countries, including the Philippines. As the country continues to recover from the lingering impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, 20 national government agencies led by DOLE, DTI, and TESDA initiated the development of a national strategy that addresses the social and economic issues in consideration of the post-pandemic labor market and that accelerated adoption of new technologies. To discuss the national government's master plan towards the recovery of the labor market, here with us is Ms. Grace A. Baldoza. Ms. Baldoza is currently the Division Chief of the DOLE, Bureau of Local Employment's Labor Market Information, Research, and Career Guidance Advocacy Division. This division leads the collection, analysis, and dissemination of data and information relative to the functioning of the labor market for various end users, such as policymakers and job seekers. Ms. Baldoza's team has led the national implementation of the DOLE Adjustment Measures Programs, or AMP, including the Camp for Formal Sector Workers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and is also the current Secretariat of the National Employment Recovery Strategy, or NERS, Task Force. She is an honors graduate of the University of the Philippines Open University's Master in Development Communication and cum laude of the University of Santo Tomas's Bachelor of Arts in Communication Arts. Ms. Grace, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Jessica. And to all our distinguished resource speakers, panelists from different government agencies, career advocates, and participants of the first leg of our NCAC webinar series, a pleasant morning to everyone. For this presentation, we will focus on what the national government is currently doing in terms of economic and employment recovery. Next slide, please. So in the first plenary session, we heard the NEDA's earlier presentation on the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, not just in the labor market, but also in the economy in general. And to underscore what was mentioned earlier and parallel with the ILO's findings in its COVID-19 labor market impact in the Philippines report, which was issued last year, the pandemic's impact was manifested through a spike in the unemployment rate, a fall in labor force participation rate, a significant reduction in work hours, and a large swell in the fraction of workers who are currently employed but are absent from work. Yet even after controlling the pandemic situation, we expect that the labor market would slowly stabilize to its pre-pandemic condition for a longer period if the necessary interventions will not be in place. So hence the government came up with the National Employment Recovery Strategy, which is anchored on the updated Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022 and the Recovery Clusters Recharge.ph. Government agencies led by the DOLE, DTI, and TESDA initiated the conception of expanding its existing Trabaho Negosyo Kabuhayan initiative in consideration of the changes in the labor market brought by the pandemic and the accelerated adoption of new technologies. And last June 25, President Rodrigo Duterte signed Executive Order Number 140, Series of 2021, adopting the NERS and reinforcing job generation programs through the NERS Task Force. Its objective are to create a policy environment that encourages generation of more employment and entrepreneurship opportunities, to improve employability and productivity of workers, and to provide support to existing and emerging businesses. So the NERS takes a whole of society approach in the development of a national strategy that addresses the social and economic issues arising from the lingering pandemic. It is composed of 20 agencies, which from time to time meets with employer groups, labor groups, and other civil society organizations for collaboration or to address concerns affecting the labor market. And on Labor Day, 1st of May 2021, during the Job Summit jointly conducted with a task group on economic recovery, the NERS Task Force unveiled its 8-point employment recovery agenda, and the enrolled programs and services improve labor market outcomes by extending assistance and necessary support to establishments and ensure business continuity, creating training and upskilling opportunities for Filipino workers to empower the country's workforce, and providing social protection to our most vulnerable groups. The NERS or the employment recovery agenda is a targeted approach to achieve the following outcomes. First, among the core is restarting economic activities. Second is restoring business and consumer confidence. Third is upgrading and retooling the workforce. And fourth is facilitating labor market access. And so far, per our last periodic report submitted to the Office of the President, our agenda yielded accomplishments. The total number of individuals reached is more than 2 million and close to 129,000 establishments, with the total jobs generated accounting to 780,000 jobs. Also, part of the accomplishments of the Nurse Task Force is to conduct a job summit where representatives from the labor and business sectors participate. 8 sectoral FGDs for workers were hosted by the DOLE in partnership with the ILO, and said FGDs invited representatives from the formal, including the education sector, informal, migrant, and women, youth, and platform workers. The discussion centered on the impacts of the pandemic, particularly on the different facets of work, such as labor rights, standards, and relations. Further, the pandemic highlighted the changes on work-life balance, given that this experience was quite new for everyone. The FGDs also focused on how the government has supported the labor sector through the challenges and the representative suggestions on how the government could further respond to best suit their needs. And among the key recommendations made by the sector include, first, social dialogue mechanisms in government institutions. Sorry, move back. Yeah, thank you. Second is provision of income support and wage subsidy. Third is guarantee and protect workers' rights. Fourth is clear and consistent COVID-19 response. Next is paid trainings and promote skills relevant in the digital economy, followed by review of policies on flexible work arrangements. Next is implementation of a work guarantee program. And last is intensified referral and placement for employment. Now for the business sector, there are 10 FGDs which were spearheaded by the members of the Nurse Task Force in coordination with the Department of Trade and Industry. The discussion centered on the impacts of the pandemic on different aspects of business, how the pandemic affected their cost of operations, sales and revenue, and employment contribution. Furthermore, they expounded on how the government is encouraged to sustain operations and in other cases, reopen without suffering drawbacks and generate a decent profit. And among the key recommendations made by the sectors include, first, faster implementation of vaccine rollout. Second is efficient pandemic management and community quarantine. Third is address cash liquidity constraints and low demand on sales. Fourth is assistance on the business's shift to digitalization. Next is updating of education and training curricula to address education and training mismatch. Next, of course, is intensified implementation of the ease of doing business. And last is employment and economic recovery and development efforts, including wage subsidy or incentives. And also part of the workings of the Nurse Task Force is its partnership with the private sector, which has committed to the creation of 1 million jobs for 2021. This is a welcome contribution in our efforts to recover lost employment because of this pandemic with the Employers Confederation of the Philippines. And on June 30, some nurse member agencies headed by DOLE, along with the leading business groups, joined forces to sign a manifesto on the partnership project called Reform, Rebound, Recover, 1 million jobs for 2021. Conceived in partnership with ECOP, the project will deploy workers in participating industries and make positive strides in the labor sector. And as we progress through this project, which aims to immediately source Filipino talents for deployment in the construction, manufacturing, particularly semiconductor and electronics, tourism and hospitality, and export industries under a policy environment that would help create jobs all over the country, we were able to facilitate an initial approval of 452,000 vaccine doses for our workers as NTF COVID-19 Vaccine Czar approved our request for vaccines last August 2021. And as a banner initiative also of the Nurse Task Force and ECOP, the 1 Million Jobs for 2021 project became a venue for social dialogue between the government and business sector to address vaccination needs and issues on employment. And a steering committee for this purpose has been created with regular meetings set to discuss issues and concerns affecting the labor market. Vaccination rollouts were also conducted in other venues in Manila and other areas such as Bulacan, Negros Oriental, Cebu, and Bataan, among others, covering close to 7,900 workers vaccinated with the first shot by far. And apart from these efforts, the Nurse Task Force also has issued 2 resolutions, which is deemed important for the recovery of the economy and the labor market. The Nurse Task Force agreed to issue a resolution on preference for locally manufactured products in the terms of reference of government procurement. This is part of the efforts of the Nurse Task Force to stimulate the economy by creating more demand for our locally manufactured goods, thus creating more jobs in the process. We also issued a second resolution on cross-referencing of programs and services, which endeavors to create a mechanism that ensures continuity of support for beneficiaries, that is from training to employment or livelihood or entrepreneurship, and to increase their chances of success. The country's recovery strategy is anchored in the updated PDP with the theme towards a healthy and resilient Philippines. And one of the lessons learned is that we acknowledge, first and foremost, that the protect, detect, isolate, treat, reintegrate, and vaccinate strategy, or PDITRV, this strategy works, but must be coupled with cooperation, self-discipline, and resilience. Towards this end, that we have developed and institutionalized the nurse, and while the healthcare workers are nursing the health of the people, the nurse is nursing employment and economy. We also acknowledge that both the pandemic and the fifth industrial revolution, or FIRE, heightened the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity of the world of work. So it is important for us to take coordinated whole of society commitment to cooperation, discipline, and resilience, ensuring that all relevant stakeholders take active participation to strengthen our recovery efforts towards our pre-pandemic crisis response and longer-term recovery. The need to upskill or acquire new skills to keep jobs within the same or across a different industry is critical. The importance of core skills, otherwise known as soft skills or 21st century skills, along with technical and digital skills, is even more underscored so workers may overcome career disruptions and find new jobs, especially in the advanced technological and digital economy of the future. And moving forward, the Nurse Task Force seeks to first engage businesses, work groups, and others in continuous dialogue for an inclusive, whole of society approach to recovery. Strengthen intergovernment and public-private partnerships towards a better data collection, sharing, and analysis, synergizing our recovery efforts. And last but not the least, is advocate adoption and application of the latest labor market intelligence in policy development, implementation, and evaluation, especially in business and livelihood resilience in the new normal. And with this, may we never cease to work together to rev up and nurse our economy and continue to facilitate the labor market access of our stakeholders to supplement our government's employment recovery efforts in response to the lingering COVID-19 pandemic. That's all po from DOLE. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Ms. Baldoza. We are optimistic that by working together through a whole of society approach, reviving up employment and economic recovery is at hand. That the global pandemic has greatly affected our ways of living over the past couple of years. We can easily point out all the negatives that it brought about, but there are also some positives that resulted from it. To help us understand how the Filipino workforce is coping with the changes brought about by the new normal and the imperatives towards upgrading for the new normal workplace, we are blessed to have the country manager of JobStreet Philippines, Mr. Philip A. Gioca. Philip Gioca is a servant leader who combines perseverance and talent to get things done, goals accomplished, and dreams realized. As the country manager of the country's largest talent sourcing website, he has repeatedly rallied the company toward the advocacy of a job for every Filipino. He has established a collaboration with government agencies like DOLE and POEA. He has also worked with NGOs like Project Inclusion, PH Business for Social Progress, and private inclusions to increase access to available job opportunities in the country and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, let us extend our virtual applauses to Mr. Gioca.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Jessica. For Dole for inviting me again on this session, and hopefully, we can really help in terms of a whole society approach in giving jobs to every Filipino. So at this point, I'd like to share, what we see as a third-party view on what's happening on labor, both on the employee and the employer side. So we believe that, this COVID-19 will persist, not only because it's really difficult to move around, but because the virus itself, as we are speaking, we are now talking of a new strain, the Omicron, and therefore, how do we now pivot ourselves to move forward and our workforce forward amidst COVID? So we believe that we should be moving despite the fact that, there is a reality that we should be living with the virus. Okay. Having said that, we are astounded by the remarkable resilience of Filipinos. We have seen this, the creativity and the persistence of many Filipinos despite the lockdowns, the unemployment has persisted and move forward this time of the year. Specifically, we've seen in the last 3 months a resurgence of number of labor or number of employment and many available jobs in the country. So it's really remarkable that the true essence of becoming a Filipino of resiliency is being displayed. Next, please. So labor market recovery is really crucial to our economy survival, underscoring the fact that we still have many Filipinos who are unemployed and underemployed. But looking at the bright side, many companies now are reopening. Not just the large companies, but also small and medium enterprises are actually opening as well. Next, please. So what do we see in terms of trend? So let me just backtrack a bit. Next, please. We have seen the most impacted industries when COVID hit. Tourism, food and beverage, hospitality, architecture, and construction and education were badly affected. However, we have seen that despite the fact of the pandemic, the IT, specifically the BPOs, remain to be resilient. Banking and finance, medical and pharmaceutical, only because they were the first movers into digitalization and automation. Next slide, please. However, a greater challenge is happening as the pandemic progresses. Many Filipinos are now preferring to work from home, and they are employed by foreign employers. Meaning to say, the comforts of home, which we now call working remotely or work at home, but your principals are not basically the local employers. They are foreign employers admitting people from the Philippines, specifically from Australia, Canada, and the United States, are offering them jobs through virtual work. So why do they go? Why do Filipinos go here? Number one is the better compensation and benefits. They present a clearer, a secured option because it's not affected by local economy. It provides equipment for remote work. And finally, the opportunity to work anywhere and flexible working arrangement is given as compared to our local entrepreneurs or hirers. Next slide, please. So what does it mean? We need to be able to invest in the remote working infrastructure and create a better or at par compensation because of these global competitors. Next, please. So just a preview, what would be the best steps moving forward despite the COVID and beyond? Next slide, please. First is automation. Automation, we have seen that only 19% of the digital workforce are working in automation or online businesses were impacted by the COVID pandemic impacts. However, when you look at the manual labor, you could see that 60% were totally impacted. So automation is key, and that is why many Filipinos are opting and looking for opportunities to work in companies with greater automation. Next, when you look at the entire scope of job resiliency, you could see on the right side box, these are the most or going to be impacted or high risk jobs that might be not there anymore in the future. And so given this right box, customer service, service sectors, administration, and secretarial, we need to build contingency plans around these roles to move them further to the left, which are in management, human resources, engineering, most of which are highly low risk jobs in terms of being impacted by automation. So what is this graph telling us? If our employees are in the right side, slowly we need to create plans and opportunities to move them in the middle and eventually be able to move them to the low risk jobs that will be impacted by automation. Next slide, please. But based on our surveys and our findings, these are the 5 most impacted or threatened by automation. So manual work and manufacturing, customer service, media and information, service sector, admin, and secretariat. However, on the next slide, please. The digitalization is asking us to do some things in terms of our processes. Even recruitment, from the beginning of onboarding, assessment, and recruitment itself, is now highly digitalized in many companies. So it's not just on the first step, but actually an end-to-end process We have seen many companies now that even their payments are done on electronics, and because there are many opportunities now to actually have a digitalization space or pivoting to digitalization from an end-to-end process. Next slide, please. So our question would always be, how can hirers, the current hirers or employers, attract and build stronger recruitment for our workforce? Number one and primary is to create a very good culture and incentives within the company. They will encourage workers to develop new skills. Second, invest on virtual learnings and coaching to complement workers who prefer to learn on the job and online. Third, during recruitment, be adaptable with your job requirements, considering employees' mix of experience as an asset. And number four, be bold to reshape new roles and as needed in the future. Next slide, please. Now, on the other side, how can applicants now be attracted by quality hirers? So quality hirers are companies and employers who are pivoting to the new digital space. So for job applicants, we would always wanted to, make sure that they still aim for career growth despite the fact that some of them might be laid off or just reintroduced to a new role in the company. Always keep the resume updated. Don't stop making connection, because it's in these virtual connections that we can freely and as many connections as we can, not only on the local scene but also on the foreign view. Take online courses. It is imperative for us to take this time to learn more and to understand what is really happening. And always stay tuned or stay updated on the typical industries those companies would be falling into. Next, please. So just to sum up, what we needed to really push forward for the new normal is, number one, we need to be on the digital side. Be it known for the latest trends in skills and software, like how to use the Zoom functions, how to use many programs as you can, because it's going to be the platform in the future. However, having said that, do not underscore soft skills. As we embark to digitalization and automation, the more we need soft skills. The soft skills cannot be anymore unaccounted for, because as we go through the digital world, communication is a very, very important skill that everyone from staff to CEOs need to get, because it's very difficult to really talk on screen and having a view that everything is loud and clear. So that is very important. Customer service is the same, because we are in a world where we service not just on the BPO side, but any interaction with your boss, with your staff, is actually a service. So that's something that we need to embark on. People management, how do you manage on virtual worlds, is a very difficult pivot from managing face to face. So these are things that soft skill is still very important despite automation and digitalization. We need to learn to learn. We need to love learning in many spare time, understand what's going on, and learn a new skill. It is good that there's many opportunities right now, that there are videos, articles, online, and free workshops to be able to learn a new topic and reshape our what we know and our interest. So these are the things that we think is very valuable to go forward despite this pandemic. Next slide, please. There. So thank you, and hopefully those are meaningful nuggets that we can take forward moving into the new normal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gioca, for giving us a snapshot on the job opportunities and relevant skills on the new normal. Now, I hope our participants, particularly those who endeavor to attain a continuing professional development points, took note of the wonderful insights of our resource speakers, as your learnings will be verified through an evaluation tool that we will share later. Now, before we proceed to the next part of our program, a panel discussion with key government representatives, let us first have a quick health and comfort break. We'll give you around 5 minutes for this quick break, and let us be back by 10:07. All right, welcome back to the webinar one of this year's NCAC. After learning from our esteemed speakers, let us listen to a fireside chat with key government representatives on what comprises the Filipino workforce in the age of Industry 4.0 and its imperatives to their respective agencies. Afterwards, questions from our participants in Zoom and Facebook Live will also be tackled as part of the open forum. Welcome back to the webinar one of this year's NCAC. And of course, with that, we are thrilled to have the Chief Labor and Employment Officer from the Labor and Social Relations Research Division of the Department's Policy Research and Advocacy Arm, the Institute for Labor Studies. He is a lecturer at the University of the Philippines, Manila, specializing in human resource management, organization, development, and industrial sociology. He received his Master of Industrial Relations degree from the School of Labor and Industrial Relations at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and his Bachelor of Arts degree in Behavioral Sciences cum laude from the University of the Philippines, Manila. His research work focuses on the policy areas of labor relations, employment security, worker displacement, unemployment protection, overseas employment, public sector unionism, and labor market analysis, specifically in the IT, and health sectors. He has served as panelist and discussant in various international fora. His research interests include labor management relations, labor policy administration, particularly utilizing regulatory impact assessment, and emerging issue on the future of work. Let us welcome Mr. Patrick P. Patriwirawan Jr.
Thank you, Jessica, and good morning again to everyone participating here in Zoom and Facebook Live. I am sure we are all excited to hear the sharing of ideas, insights, and initiatives in the panel discussion that will help us further understand transitions, trends, and prospects towards a fire-responsive and COVID-proof labor market that will ultimately contribute to our aim for the Filipino workforce to learn, adapt, and thrive as we all rise above employment challenges in the post-pandemic future. Let me now introduce to you our esteemed panelists. So first, we have the Assistant Secretary and Concurrent Director of the Bureau of Local Employment, which is responsible for promoting full and decent employment through policy and program development. She finished her Master of Development Planning degree at the University of Queensland, Australia, Master of Arts degree, major in Development Education at the University of Santo Tomas, Manila, and Bachelor of Mass Communications at Silliman University, Dumaguete City. Her initiatives include increasing employability of youth, developing career information guides, facilitating decent jobs, and promoting entrepreneurship, assessing 21st century skills of workforce, and developing new rules and regulations responsive to labor market changes, such as human capital development, recruitment, and employment of foreign nationals. She is also a member of the Philippine delegation in negotiating various free trade agreements specific to the movement of natural persons. Currently, she is engaged in measures towards employment and economic recovery, particularly on the National Employment Recovery Strategy, or NERS. Let us all welcome Assistant Secretary Dominic Rubio Tutay as part of our panelists. Good morning po, Asik Nikki.
Sa atin. Thank you.
Thank you, Asik Nikki. Next panelist is currently the Director of the ICT Industry Development Bureau of the Department of Information and Communications Technology. In her 20 years in public service, she is so passionate about creating positive changes in the lives of Filipinos, most especially in the countryside, through the ICT industry development programs. This include bringing digital jobs related to information technology, business process management sector to cities outside Metro Manila, and capacitating rural talents to get into online freelancing. She also leads the DICT initiatives to move the Philippines towards becoming the global hub for high-value IT BPM services. She was recognized and awarded by the National ICT Confederation of the Philippines as a countryside development champion for her dedicated work in implementing initiatives that promote countryside development. Recently, the DICT, through her bureau, in partnership with the Information Technology Business Process Association of the Philippines, launched the Digital Cities 2025, one of the flagship programs of DICT in the new normal. Let us all welcome Director Emmy Versosa Delphine of the Department of Information and Communications Technology. Good morning po, Director Emmy.
Morning. Thank you, Patrick. Morning, everyone. Hi, Asik Nikki. I made it, ha? To all participants po, good morning. Morning. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Director Emmy. Our next panelist currently heads the Manufacturing Industry Service under the Industry Development Group of the Board of Investments. Previous to that, she was the Director for the Infrastructure and Services Industry Service of BOI and the Director for International Marketing. She also had a successful 5-year stint as the DTI Business Development Manager for the electronics and semiconductor industries. She graduated with a BS Chemical Engineering degree from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, Quezon City, and passed the Chemical Engineering Licensure Examination. A scholar of the Philippine Civil Service Commission, she earned her master's degree in Business Administration from the Ateneo de Manila University Graduate School of Business. In 2015, she was one of the recipients of the Board of Chemical Engineering Award of Recognition. Let us all welcome Director Evariste Cagatan of the Department of Trade and Industry Board of Investments.
Morning.
Morning po, Director. And our last panelist, we have Dr. Zoraida Ang, who finished her master's in business administration at Ateneo de Manila University Graduate School of Business and her doctorate in business administration at the De La Salle University. She has worked under the DOST, formerly known as the National Science and Technology Authority, since 1985 and transferred to DOST Industrial Technology Development Institute in 1989. She started out as a science research specialist and has climbed the ranks throughout the years, having the position of Chief Science Research Specialist under the Planning and Management Information Systems Division before she became the Deputy Director for Administrative and Technical Services. At present, she is engaged in numerous projects of the DOST ITDI, one of which is the developing FIC competency in moving new products from concept to market launch. She is also a part-time faculty member of the Ramon V. Del Rosario College of Business at the De La Salle University. Her fields of interest include strategic management, governance, operations management, and entrepreneurship. Let us all welcome Dr. Zoraida Ang of the Department of Science and Technology.
Hi, Mr. Patrick. Good morning. Hi, Asek Dominique, Director Emmy, and Director Evariste. Morning.
Good morning, Doc. Thank you po.
Okay, po. To complete our panel, may I also join our speakers from the plenary presentations, Director Girlie-Igtiben of NEDA, Ms. Grace Baldoza of the Bureau of Local Employment, and Mr. Philip Gioca of JobStreet Philippines. All right, so let's start our panel discussion. Prior to the pandemic, the landscape of work had been changing rapidly with the rise of FIRE. COVID-19, however, has brought unprecedented challenges with technology, playing a critical role in redesigning and transforming the way individuals work. Our current challenge is to retool and upskill the current workforce and develop the future workforce so that they will be able to adapt and thrive amidst the disruptions. Would like to ask the panel, what constitutes a better, faster, and stronger Filipino workforce in this day and age?
Are we going to answer according to the way you have introduced us in that order?
Pwede po, yes po, para din may organized tayo. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, siguro I'd like to start, Patrick. Kanina nga doon sa tawag dito, presentation ni Philip, talagang makikita mo ano ba ang kailangan natin. So it has to be, the worker should be agile, the worker should be able to adapt to the changes, not just brought about by the pandemic, but because of the current fourth industrial and coming fifth industrial revolution. So there's continuous learning that we need to do, and also our workforce or our learners should also be able to, I think the key word there is learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Agree po, Asek. Thank you po. Maybe we can hear from Director Emmy.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Hello to my fellow panelists. Good morning, and to all the participants. Well, I totally agree. In fact, Philip has a very great presentation. And yeah, I totally agree, as also mentioned by Director Nikki, that the question is what constitutes a better, faster, and stronger Filipino workers in this day and age. Of course, a workforce that is prepared, in this digital disruption, a workforce that is digital literate, that is flexible, that is adaptable to the changing times, and of course, a workforce that is equipped with relevant skills that are actually based on the demands of the industry. And if I may just share, of course, that there are actually 5 critical skills, the top skills needed in the digital age, as also provided by the World Economic Forum. And if I may share, so one very important is critical thinking and analysis, problem solving, skills in self-management, that's active learning, resilient, of course, skills are in being stress tolerant, being flexible, and of course, another important soft skill is, of course, empathy. So yeah, those things are very important for a better, stronger Filipino workforce.
Thank you, Director Emmy. Maybe we could also hear from the trade and industry perspective, Director Aries.
Yes, Patrick, if you may allow, I actually prepared something. Just about 5 minutes. So first, magandang umaga ulit sa ating distinguished guests, and of course, to our students. I know the students are interested in the development in the labor market, as they will be actually entering it sooner than later and will be building their professional careers. And if I may say, it will be dynamic, challenging, but at the same time, exciting future ahead of them, what with the technological advances developing in a world market that is becoming as borderless as ever. And today we are talking about 4IR, or as it is coined now, FIRE, FIRE. And rightly so, the technological developments are a fire, and we need to act quickly and appropriately so that we get the most benefit from it. Many economies are already advanced and already living the age of the fourth industrial revolution. Can the Philippines choose not to? It is just but inevitable. Being part of the global value chains of many industries, there are already a number of companies here that are in fire. And the Philippines must continue to ride the tide and flex the Filipino talent and brand of excellence in the workplace. In pursuing BPI's Inclusive Innovation Industrial Strategy, which aims to grow globally competitive and innovative industries, focus on the competition, innovation, productivity nexus that serves as channels through which investments, employment, and growth would be generated, and the Rebuild PH strategy that envisions a better future for Filipinos in a modern, dynamic, and responsible Philippines. We recognize that human resource development and capacity building is an integral pillar for us to build back better, for which we should ensure that our human capital is ready and able to capture jobs, especially in high-value, innovation-laden investments that we are trying to attract into the country. Under the 2020 Investments Priorities Plan, we prefer the preferred areas of investments, for example, would be in manufacturing sectors that are up to date in technology or will use new technologies, investments in creative services and in innovation drivers, among others. And in terms of industry development, we have several initiatives and programs and collaborations with other government agencies and academia aiming to capacitate and upskill our industries and our workforce. And in DTI's work of industry promotion and investment generation, we always highlight that the Filipino people is the country's best and strongest value proposition. Our human capital will thus actually not only drive, but also define our success in the 4IR or the FIRE. So we think that this translates to a lot of technological innovations, the speed of breakthroughs of which is said to be at an exponential pace, thereby disrupting almost every industry, transforming entire systems of production, management, even governance. And as these business models, platforms, and systems change, employers would definitely look for different skills and characteristics from the labor market in order for their businesses to stay competitive according to the times. And of course, we've seen this during this pandemic, which served as a strong impetus to catalyze the wider adoption of digitalization in how we work, attend school, do business, market, and sell under circumstances that curtailed temporarily our physical mobility. So in a presentation in a study by Dr. Jose Ramon Albert and Ms. Janet Cuenca of PIDS, these desirable characteristics that employers will be looking for would be flexibility, adaptiveness, and agility on 4 skills. I think this was mentioned already by one of the speakers, and it will be on communication, critical thinking and problem solving, collaboration and creativity and innovation. And relatedly, in the 2018 Future of Jobs report, the job outlook for 2022 gives the top 10 emerging jobs, which are for data analyst, AI, machine learning, software and app development, digital transformation, and so on. So are we ready for these jobs? Do we have enough professionals to be fielded in these new businesses? We may not have so right now. So what is the future of the Philippine labor force in the realm of FIRE? According to Abraham Lincoln, the best way to predict one's future is to create it. So we can then create a better future for Filipinos. We start by ensuring our workforce is ready to catch the fire and keep it burning. Time is of the essence, so we must learn, thrive, and adapt, and be nimble and agile about it. To overcome the challenges of fire and get the best value from it, our bet and the best value proposition is still the Filipino workforce.
Thank you, Director Aries. That was a very comprehensive intervention po, no? And also now we can hear from Dr. Zoraida for a science and technology perspective, ma'am.
Okay, I'll just summarize and recap, reiterate everything that have been said. Sa summary na lang ako, ha? Of course, it is all about workforce readiness, no? And this would refer to technological literacy and skills required to compete in the marketplace. Now, they have said earlier that this includes time management, personal presentation, attendance. Now, these basic skills are required on the path to employability and job readiness. Second, there was a mention about the soft skills. There is really a need for essential human skills, no? And this includes creativity, innovation was also mentioned, complex problem solving, relationship building, communication. There was a mention about emotional intelligence and critical thinking. Now, all of these would aid an individual to achieve success in the workplace as they perform and interact well with their coworkers. There was also a mention of technical skills, no, and targeted training. So this was mentioned in Deloitte, actually, in their document on how to prepare the tomorrow workforce for the 4IR. No? The individual has to perform a specific practical task by having technical skills and targeted training. Now, another one mentioned is about there is really a need, no, as young people toggle between formal and informal work. They need to have entrepreneurial skills that would help them better navigate these changes and could better position them in future job opportunities. And lastly, a competent Filipino workforce must be on a continuous search for lifelong learning, as what was emphasized earlier, no, to help that individual adapt and participate in the changing landscape of work. So there you are, Mr. Patrick. That's the summary of all what has been said by the panelists and the speakers. I've done your work already.
Thank you, Dr. Am, for that very comprehensive, summative intervention of our first question. Maybe we can also hear from our plenary speakers on their view on what constitutes a better, faster, and stronger Filipino workforce.
Hi, Sir Pat. Maybe I'll go first. Yeah. Thank you. I think, well, on top of what everyone in the panel has already described, I think it's more of really openness to change. The change is really inevitable at the moment, and especially our new entrants to the labor market must be really open to learn new things and accept the changes, and definitely be resilient and arm themselves with the proper skills and future digital and technological skills.
Thank you, Ms. Grace. Any intervention from JobStreet or Director Girlie?
Hi. I just want to add one dynamic, and I hope everyone can help us, realize this. The labor force should be DIY or do it yourself. More and more, we need to not spoon feed the labor force of what to do, but for themselves to find out what is really important in the future. Because there are many operating systems, many platforms. All of these can be learned through videos and summaries that we can find. It's really that ability and that crave for one person to do it himself, to learn for the future.
Thank you, Sir Philip. Dr. Girlie. Hi, ma'am.
Everything was said already, no, but I just want to emphasize the need to have a healthy workforce, because that is very crucial. You might have the skills, you might have resiliency, but most important of all, especially during at this time, is that you need a very healthy workforce. So we actually want to encourage the workforce to, gagawin ko ng plugging to, have yourself vaccinated. Today is the first day of the national vaccination program. So let us keep on being healthy so that we'll be able to participate very well in our industries. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Girlie, and I hope our participants are taking note of these valuable insights on what constitutes a better, faster, and stronger Filipino workforce. Now, recognizing changes in the labor market, especially after the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, how did each agency adapt in the national government's response to workforce development and resilience? Are there new programs or initiatives from your respective agencies?
Patrick, siguro on the employment facilitation side, while we have the traditional mga job fair, mga face-to-face referral and matching system, we still do have employment facilitation, but there are twists that we have done. For instance, we were able to adapt to an online facility for us to be able to have a matching and referral system, but with the help, of course, of our partners such as JobStreet here and all other online job platforms. Kasi ang DOLE, wala pa po talaga kaming yung online platform for tinatawag po natin na online job fair. And then secondly, we were able to digitize some of our career information pamphlets. So the 2020 was spent on really adapting to the changes or the requirements of the current period on how we will be able to reach our job seekers, our learners. And then also we were able to make an online life skills training for the job job start program, kasi nga meron siyang LST module, meron din siyang technical training, at saka meron siyang internship. So, ito yung some of the twist or updating that we have done insofar as employment facilitation is concerned.
Thank you, Asik Nikki. Director Emmy for the ICT.
Thank you, Patrick. Siguro, I would like to introduce first, as siguro some of the participants are asking, why is the ICT here? Because of course, we're very much familiar with infrastructure, which is of course provision of connectivity and also our national broadband program and even e-government. But as you may know, we have 6 mandates. 2 of the mandates are, one is industry, ICT industry development, and second is countryside development. And one of the 5 missions of the ICT is to ensure the growth and competitiveness of the ICT-enabled industries that will result to the creation of more jobs. So to be able to help fulfill that mandate, a bureau has been created to help fulfill that. So that bureau is our bureau, which I head, the ICT Industry Development Bureau. And also, as going back to your question, the DICT has actually adopted a new framework to be able for us to help to become a significant player in the global digital economy. So last June, we have actually adopted a framework called CHIP. CHIP stands for connect, H stands for harness, I stands for innovate, and P stands for protect. So Connect is about building the digital foundation. So these are the programs under Connect are of course our public free Wi-Fi, our data center facilities, our national broadband programs. And letter H, harness, is about investing in digital education skills and jobs. So under that harness component, we are implementing a lot of programs. And I would say one of our major programs is Digital Cities Program, which is about developing, capacitating locations outside of Metro Manila to bring BPO jobs, particularly, and other ICT jobs. And we also have an ICT Academy, which actually includes a lot of programs on upskilling, reskilling for the government officials, government personnel, and also for the private sector, that particularly upskilling, reskilling for the BPO industry in terms of animation, game development, health information management, software development, and even the Global In-House Center, the KPOs. And even we also have another program under Harness is promoting the online freelancing industry or the gig economy, which is also a very big program. In fact, maybe later I can discuss more detail about this. But so that's Harness. And then letter I, Innovate, which is also about us promoting digital entrepreneurship. So we also have a very big program about the digital startup development and acceleration program, because under the innovative startup law, the ICT is one of the 3 lead agencies in the development, implementation of one whole of nation, whole of government approach for the Filipino startups or the Filipino startup ecosystem. In fact, DOST and DTI are actually our lead agencies in that. So there, and then letter P is about, of course, all our cybersecurity, the data privacy related initiatives, and are left under letter P, or protect. So those are the things that we are doing in the ICT.
Thank you, Director Emmy. Director Erispo from DTI.
Yes, for our side, the Board of Investments, of course, we have twin mandates of industry development and investments promotion. So we have continued doing that during the pandemic, all the more because we need more investment so that we can create more jobs. We need to develop our industries so that we can go back and recover better after the pandemic. Actually, during the pandemic, we were able to develop a new industry, the PPE local manufacturing industry. And in promoting investments, actually in 2020, we were already able to get a lot of investments, and most of these, or significant of this, would be those in infrastructure, so that we will be equipped, the country will be equipped into digitalization. We also have projects, for example, there's a CHED BOI Memorandum of Understanding, and under that, we recently had an activity that would engage the academe with the private sector. Specifically, there were 2 Taiwanese companies, for example. We were working on having the college graduates actually go into internship in these two companies, and we're trying to do that so that we can prepare actually the students when they enter the workforce. So mostly industry development and with capacity building initiatives for manufacturing industries, and of course we continue our work on investments promotion. And as Director Girlie mentioned, we need a healthy workforce, and so we are also into the development of a local vaccine manufacturing industry in the Philippines, and we have been heavily involved in ensuring that medical oxygen is available, especially at the height of the Delta variant wave. So it was really DTI-BOI together with DOH that ensured medical oxygen reaches our health facilities and that no life will be lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Aries. From a science and technology perspective, Dr. Zoraida?
Yes, Patrick, the DOST, we really need to meet the changing demands of technology-driven world. DOST is one of the government that implements various programs, that aims to accelerate science, technology, innovation, or STI, through massive increase in investments on S&T human resource development, and of course R&D through the Science for Change program. If I remember right, there was a directive from the president himself that we need to double at the onset of the pandemic, that we need to double the S&T human resources. So our researchers, several researchers were hired by the DOST during the pandemic. More than double pa yung naging outcome ng aming program on the directive of the president. Now, the Science for Change program, or the S4C program of the DOST, if I would be allowed to describe it more comprehensively, it is now a bill and awaiting the approval of the Senate. This include 4 sub-programs: the niche centers, or what we in the regions for R&D, or NICER program, that aims to capacitate the HAIs in the regions to make significant improvement in the regional research by integrating its development need with the existing R&D research capabilities and resources. It will provide institutional grant for R&D capacity building to improve their S&T infrastructure. Well, what comes to mind is, why do we really need R&D? How do you connect that to the labor? Remember that with R&D, we develop technologies, and these technologies would provide, once it is out there, it will provide entrepreneurial opportunities and therefore generate employment. Yun lang yung pinakang magandang i-emphasize doon. We develop technologies, through STI, science and technology innovation, so that technologies will be available for the take of all the entrepreneurs and other individuals who would like to invest. And this would generate employment and make an active economic activity in the country. So another one is the RD-LEAD program. RD-LEAD meaning this would strengthen and further the research capabilities of the academe, the R&D institutions, and other government line agencies nationwide. In this program, the HAIs or the RDIs will engage experts with strong leadership, management, and innovative policy-making proficiencies to be in charge in strengthening the research capabilities of the HAIs or the RDIs. Another one is the CRADLE program, or the collaborative R&D to leverage Philippine economy, which aims to enable technological advancement in innovation in local companies and to support the growth of the Philippine innovation ecosystem. Now, through this program, the academe or the R&D in partnership with the Filipino company can undertake research and development to improve the company's products and processes and services to become more competitive in the respective industries, and therefore would translate to generation of employment as well. Now, the business innovation through S&T, or the BIS industry program, aims to provide financial assistance to Filipino private companies for the acquisition of strategic and relevant technologies, so they can also undertake the R&D. Now, there are several programs actually, the DOST, if you will notice that because of the pandemic, more than ever, the SNT has become visible, and its importance was emphasized. It is a go-to science and technology. We also have this career incentive program. This one is being implemented by the Science Education Institute of the DOST. This is a short-term scheme to address yung administration's call to strengthen the country's SNT capability to avert unemployment of graduates of the DOST SEI graduate scholarships. Marami tayong graduates, mga scholars natin. In fact, in school year 2020 to 2021, there are a total of 45,555 scholars. And then we also had for school year 2021 to 2022, there are around 39,671 scholars. And where would they go? Diba? So this career incentive program, hindi naman lahat makahire yan ng industry. And even here sa DOST, we can only take as much as we can, because there is alam mo, plantilla position. And the only thing that we could do is create a contract of service as a form of employment. Now, this would hire these graduates. This is open to MS and PhD graduates of the Advanced Science and Technology Human Resources Development Program. Now, interested scholar graduates may apply to the CIP, and they will be matched with the DOS agency research institution where their specialization is needed in research projects. Like for us at ITDI, we have so many CIP grantees for our projects and programs. Now, just recently, the DOSS implemented the SNT Fellows for R&D program. Okay. Now, this program seeks to increase the capability and strengthen the human resource complement of the R&D group of the DOST by creating a pool of SNT Fellows who will participate in policy and funding development, help implement the monitoring and evaluation of protocols, to conceptualize, propose, and implement R&D programs and projects that would result to attaining the 6 Ps and the 2 Is as delivered in the timely manner. Ano ba yung 6 Ps natin? That would be, that contribute to the Global Innovation Index. This include patent, publication, partnerships, we have policies, and then a product, of course, and what else? Saka 6 na ba ako? And then the 2 Is, of course, the economic and socio-economic impact of these projects and programs. Now, this received a funding of more than 800 million, and this is being implemented by the DOST Office of the Undersecretary for R&D, Yusek Ibarra. So yun yung mga latest namin. Madami pa, I can name so much because we have launched Big 21 in 2021. You could just imagine this Big 2021. There is a compendium of this one, and I would give this to the organizers so that they can disseminate it to the students and they could take advantage of all this one. Without mentioning also of the other, like the Coare, we have the Sparta, we have the Coursera. So marami kaming mga na-implement during this pandemic and still ongoing, post-pandemic future. Nag-multiply pa. Okay. That's it, Patrick. Bumawi ako ngayon na nasa side.
Thank you po, Dr. Zoraida. Very informative itong session na to, no? And I hope our participants are really taking note of all these initiatives of the various government agencies, no, who are of course responsible in ensuring development ng ating workforce. Now we proceed with hopefully the final question, no? Of course, in the interest of time, we'll have to make everything brief, no? So the National Career Advocacy Congress focuses on a learn, adapt, thrive framework with the goal of imparting lessons to key stakeholders in navigating this world of work. Being in this age of seemingly VUCAD world, considering that COVID-19 fast-track digitalization initiatives where we need to adapt to these changes, how does one plan for the future? Not to mention shape it. Maybe we could hear from all our panelists and the plenary speakers on their thoughts, no, on how our workforce can actually plan for the future. Any thoughts or insights on how we can provide tips for our workforce to plan for the future and shape it, of course?
To that question, I'd like to ask Philip, being in the industry.
Sir Philip, please.
Salamat. Thank you, Sec Nikki. Okay, so just to tie it up from what we presented earlier and the many insights no here, one needs to understand and introspect ano ba yung kulang niya. There is a future. We are already saying it's going to be digital, it's going to be automation. What is my current standing and how far or how near am I onto that goal? Because everyone's unique and everyone is in a different position. So for any employee, it would be important to introspect what are my gaps and what are my aims so that I could learn. And there's so many things to learn. No? Sabi nga ni Doktora Zoraida, maraming binibigay, maraming online, maraming opportunities to be able to learn for that future. And we need to be DIY to be prepared for that. So that's one side of the employment. The other side is the hirer. We need to adapt because our process should be digitalized. It's coming. Payments. Nobody's now going to office. People are now trying to do it every single time on online, on mobile. So is our company ready and equipped with those processes? We have 30 processes, for example. How can we cut that to 5? So these are the questions that we, when you try to automate, when you try to go to digital, it's sides of the employee and the sides of the employer. It cannot be employee yung mag-adapt tapos yung papasukan niya hindi naman. So aalis din siya. So sayang, di ba? So it should be both. And that's why I like this forum because of the call for a society moving towards that future. Yun lang. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Philip. No, it's really a call for self-assessment and trying to understand where we are now and what we really need to do to be able to have that future-proof skills. No? Any more intervention po from our panelists? So maybe at this point, we can entertain some questions from Zoom and Facebook Live. We have here from FB Live, Miss Ann Partida. Good morning to all. How can we help out of school youth find job since they don't want to continue studying?
Patrick, sorry, Asek.
Sige, ikaw muna, Miss Emmy.
Okay, sige. Yeah, because for DICT kasi, DICT, we have a program for out-of-school youth. As I mentioned earlier, we are implementing a program called Digital Jobs PH. It's really about capacitating Filipinos, particularly those who are in the marginalized sectors of society. So I'm talking here of persons with disabilities, out-of-school youth, senior citizens. I don't know why women is part of that. So we are implementing that with the goal of they can actually look for jobs, like online jobs, as mentioned earlier by Philip, that a lot of individuals or even Filipinos would like to do remote work. And so the reason why we're implementing that, it's basically promoting the gig economy or the online freelancing industry, because while we are promoting the BPO industry, but when we bring them outside of Metro Manila, there are certain requirements that a major BPO locator would look for, like real estate building, like big buildings, PESA certified, and other requirements. But when you talk of online freelancing, they can actually work even at the comfort of their homes, while they are earning dollars while they are with their families. So this Digital Jobs PH initiative, we are implementing, providing trainings for free. We have 29 courses, and this is based actually on the top 20 global freelancing industry demands. And we have industry partners that are doing the training. And in fact, we actually do this by not just having like a 10-day training, but after that, we have a 21-day campaign or like an OJT, so that even before the end of the training, a lot of graduates or trainees have jobs already, because these are actually actual on-the-job training, looking for major employers. So for the question, maybe you can go to the ICT Facebook page, because we have also a separate bureau doing that. So Digital Jobs PH, and these trainings are ongoing right now. And they can, choose like web development, e-commerce, social media marketing, content writing, virtual assistant, graphic design. So those are the most in-demand jobs online. So they can actually take advantage of those trainings for free.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you, Director Emmy.
Actually, if I may add, the DICT has really a big role during this pandemic time. Because even in government agencies like us, without the MITHI program of the DICT, how can we really cope with, the challenges of the pandemic with, in fact, our internal operations are not, digitalized.
Yes.
So, yun yung nakikita natin. Very important yung MITHI program ng DICT na sana naman na pinupondohan din ng DBM kagad completely. Diba? Otherwise, we will be left behind. Diba? Kasi yan ang struggle natin even with the 2022 budget. Itong MITHI program natin, not all of our requirements were approved. So na-lessen pa siya. So how can we continue with digitalization of our operations? Importante yun. Kasi otherwise, we cannot also connect with the labor force.
You have to step up as well, adapt,
Yeah, first step yan eh.
Do fast.
Training, tapos hindi naman tayo digitalized, di ba? So, mahirap
Dr.
din.
Girlie, merong hugot si Dr.
Kasi nasa third year kami ng MITHI program, so hindi naman na-provide yung last year. Itong year na to, hindi naman fully funded siya. So kailangan mas spill over sa 2022, binuwasan pa.
Kasi sayang naman po yung efforts if it's not also being supported.
And then we were able to hire several IT graduates, mga newly graduates, mga around 14 siguro yung tinap namin. And they were so very happy na kahit they're not from graduates from prominent schools, na-hire sila ng science community. It's a big factor actually.
Actually, maraming opportunities ngayon, Dr. Zoraida, kasi even yung youth employability ng DOLE, parang medyo malaking budget ngayon, and then we're utilizing yung mga youth sector natin. Kahit out of school youth, if you can have internship, it's paid. So kumikita ka and you learn skills para in preparation for the real world of work. And then you also have the JobStreet Philippines. Now, if OSY ka naman and you want to go back to school, then you can have still the special program for employment of students. Merong mga tweak na ginagawa yun dahil nga nagka-pandemya. So marami pong pwedeng possibility na matutunan ng ating mga kabataan, especially the
Yeah, correct. Ma'am. In fact, sa end naman namin, we always provide yung technical skills ng intervention, like tinatap kami, like they would want to be taught on yung mga livelihood training programs. Nandyan kami lagi. We provide the provision of technical services support dito sa mga ibang agencies. So yun naman yung role namin dito sa science. Yeah. Actually,
Doc Zoraida, meron pong question tayo from the participants, no? Do we have scholarship programs under TVET sector?
Kasi under the Science Education Institute of the DOST or SEI, they have the Philippine Science High School Scholarship. They have the undergraduate scholars. Ito naman yung mga for colleges, incoming college students. We have the Master of Science Scholarship and also the PhD Scholarship. Empleyado and even outside the DOST can apply for the Advanced Science and Technology Human Resources Development Program. But we provide training courses for agencies under the TVET who would tap us. Yun naman yung role namin lagi. But relative to the scholarship under the SEI, these are just limited for graduate courses, graduate students and undergrad students, including high school.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Zoraida. Yes, po.
Yes. Of course, we want to create more jobs, no? And of course, in this DPI, we are also pushing for entrepreneurship. So during this time, if you're not employed, you can go training, or you can have your own business. Then you will be, you can also maybe create 1 or 2 jobs. So, let's not forget that side as well.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
The ITDI naman, ma'am, we have a collaborative agreement with the TESDA. So kami naman yung tinatap ng TESDA rin.
Okay, so I think we're now down to, of course, the last minutes in our session, maybe we can hear some brief parting words from each of our panelists for today. Let's start with ASEC Nikki.
Parang marami pang gustong sabihin ng ating mga panel of reactors, but siguro may part 2 dapat ito, Grace and Jill. And anyway, since we start, unang-una nagpapasalamat po kami sa mga panelists para po sa oras nila. And syempre doon po sa ating mga constituents na nakikinig po ngayon, when we started with the National Career Advocacy Congress and even the Regional Career Advocacy Congress, we want it na up-to-date sa mga millennials at ngayon ay sa Gen Z. So applicable pa din po yung tagline na aming craft, particularly for this, and that is follow the guide, tag a career, and like the future. Thank you po.
Awesome. Thank you, ASEC Nikki. Director Emmy.
Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, I agree with ASEC Nikki. Parang kulang yung time, no? For all of us to hear all the different programs. Yeah, sana may part 2. But anyway, yeah, all I can say is for somebody, diba, who wants to be successful in this in the age of digital disruption, I think the very first consideration is to find their why. What is their core? And once they have found that, of course, the next thing is how can they be relevant? How can they more useful in whatever core that is, no? And to be relevant means to be ready to learn new things. And there are a lot of opportunities out there, free trainings, Udemy, Coursera, di ba? Philip, ang dami, sobra. Hindi lang sa government, but a lot. But then at the end of the day, it's really up to the individual or to the Filipinos to take advantage of these opportunities. But yes, there's a lot. So thank you again, ASEC, for having us.
Thank you, Director Emmy. Director Aris.
Yes. As I've said, when we do promotions, we always say that the Filipino is our best and strongest value proposition. But our industries will only be as good as the human capital. So to our future workforce, please learn, thrive, and adapt. Be ready because the future is here and you will make your own future.
Thank you, Director Aris. Doc Zoraida?
Yeah, for the future workforce, do not be afraid of science. Kasi ang impression sa science and technology, mga nerd, di ba? Yung mga nakataas ng naka-lab gown, nagma-microscope. No, do not be afraid of science, no? You have so many opportunities in science and technology and innovation. More than ever, the important role of STI in the country has been emphasized during the pandemic. Nakita niyo yung and we offer so many opportunities. The key here is learning how to learn. Yun yung importante, no? Learning how to learn. So, gusto pa dagdag promote natin ng government agencies, ano? There is no more than anything else na stable but government work. Lagi kong in-encourage yung mga nag-a-apply. Why did you come to government? Nakita rin nila yung difference from the private sector to the government. May private sector, but baka tayo na, no. Anyway, we are now comparable. Government work is now comparable with industry work. In fact, we offer better salaries and benefits. No, the most secure work is in government, and the fulfillment of working, helping people is really fulfilling. It's a lifelong fulfillment as a worker. So we encourage everyone, go to government, be a scientist and be a researcher. Biglang ganun.
Thank you po, Dr. Zoraida.
Thank you, Asik, for inviting us here. Thank you.
All right. Let us also hear from our plenary presenter. Yes, ma'am. Go pa, Asik.
Mag-part 2 tayo. Go ahead, mga kasama, Philip, Grace, and Neda. Director Girlie.
Yes, so we can also hear some parting words from our plenary presenters. Let's start with Director Girlie.
Yes, first we would like to thank DOLE ASEC Nikki for inviting us in this very interactive 5th NCAC. So we will be happy, more than happy, for the second round of this conversation. I just want to say to our viewers at the moment that the government is trying its best to, support whatever it is that we can do, especially at this time of the pandemic, to have everyone, employed and reskilled and retooled and everything. So we want to ask for the help of the individuals as well to help us out too, so that we can move forward very resilient from this pandemic and ma-improve pa natin yung ating employment capacity. So yun po, again, I would like to encourage everyone to be healthy and resilient para we can see everyone at the end of this pandemic. So maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Director Girlie. And we can also hear from the private sector partner from JobStreet, Sir Philip.
ASEC Nikki, thank you. Isang text lang pwede na, di ba? So susunod na rounds. But just to caution everyone and our constituents, despite the energy of reopening the market, we can see a lot of people back into the malls and stuff. So this pandemic is not yet over. There is a new variant. So please stay safe, survive this, and be cautious, no? Kasi ang daming opportunities eh. Hindi natin magagamit yung opportunities na yun kung tayo ay ma-hospital o mawala. So very important. Don't let your guard down. There's many more to come.
Thank you, Sir Philip. And Miss Grace from BLE.
Okay, thank you, Sir Pat, and thank you to our esteemed panelists and of course our resource speakers. Thank you for accepting our invitation to join us in this first webinar of the NCAC. So let me just
Parang nawala po ata. Miss Grace, are you still there?
Yes, naghang po ako, sorry. So,
Go
let
ahead.
me just say that it would be really difficult to plan ahead like 10 years from now, because as we have been hearing, those technology from 10 years, like we would have to really experience them from 10 years from now, but it's already here. So it's really difficult to plan ahead. But what we can do, especially our new entrants, is to pursue our passion while keeping tab and keeping up with the current trends in the labor market. This is really a challenging time for all of us, but if we could really widen our horizon and do something that we continue to love and we have passion for, we will remain competitive in this ever-changing labor market landscape. So maybe all, again, we reiterate our call for whole of society cooperation so we can all go safely out of this pandemic and into the new normal. Thank you, po.
All right, so thank you to, once again, thank you to all our panelists. We now close the panel discussion, and thank you also to our plenary speakers. I now turn over the virtual floor to Jessica.
There you have it. Thank you so much, Sir Patrick, and our panelists for such an informative and engaging discussion on the future of work and human capital development. And yes, we agree for a part 2 on this topic, right, Sir Jill and Sir Patrick? Now, at this point, may we request our speakers, panelists, and moderator to please turn on their cameras for their quick photo opportunity.
All right, okay, so kindly stand by, everyone. Look at the camera and smile in 3, 2, 1. Smile. One more. All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Smile. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sir Jill. And of course, once again, to our dear panelists, speakers, and moderator. Now, before we end this session, here are some reminders and announcements. Today's webinar is the first of 3-part webinar series for this year's NCAC. We enjoin everyone to join us this Friday, December 3, 2021, for the second webinar with the theme, The Hybrid Workplace, Rethinking Employee Engagement and Productivity in the New Normal. Also, we enjoin everyone to accomplish the event evaluation form. And for those who want to earn their corresponding continuing professional development points, we also encourage you to answer the evaluation questions that we have through the links flashed on your screen. It will also be shared through the chat box both in Zoom and on Facebook Live. For more information on the Congress, you may also check the official event website at fifthNCAC.vx-events.com. Once again, that's fifthNCAC.vx-events.com. Now, we hope we have made your morning a productive and insightful one. As we come to the end of our program, let us welcome one of our Assistant Secretaries in the Employment and General Administration Cluster, Assistant Secretary Warren M. Miklat, for his closing remarks.
Good morning again to our distinguished guests and participants. On behalf of Secretary Silvestre H. Bello III and Undersecretary Renato L. Ebarle, we would like to extend our sincerest gratitude to our esteemed resource speakers and panelists for sharing their knowledge and expertise in this year's National Career Advocacy Congress. This is the department's 5th National Career Advocacy Congress, and this is a milestone activity as we pursued to deliver in a virtual setting that reaches more stakeholders nationwide, aligned with our theme of learning, adapting, and thriving despite the challenges of the pandemic. We are pleased to have with us around 600 to 700 participants for the first webinar, who are composed of registered guidance counselors, career advocates, students, representatives from government, industry, academe, and other partners. It is our hope that everyone has gained valuable insights from the presentations and panel discussion on human capital development in the age of the 4th and 5th Industrial Revolution and our transition in a post-COVID labor market. We thank everyone for spending your precious time with us, and we hope to see you on Friday, December 3, 2021, for the second installment of the 5th National Career Advocacy Congress webinar series with the theme, The Hybrid Workplace, Rethinking Employee Engagement and Productivity in the New Normal. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang umaga sa ating lahat.
Thank you, Assistant Secretary Miklat. And with this, we would like to thank all our participants for joining us this Monday morning. Indeed, what a great way to start the week through a meaningful dialogue on human capital development. Once again, we enjoin everyone to join us this coming Friday, December 3, 2021, for another webinar on employee engagement and productivity in the new normal. Again, I'm Jessica Garcia, and this has been the 5th National Career Advocacy Congress, Webinar 1. Isang mapagpalang umaga po sa ating lahat.